intelligent, very aware of things. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past him.
he definitely knew, because he was so distracted by everything, and then as soon as your car turned around, he was like...
He's like, time to be good. How'd it go this week?
It was good. We went to the forest preserve, and we did a little bit of recall where we were around a corner so he couldn't see me, like he couldn't turn and just see me, and he did like phenomenally with that. It turned in, we play hide and seek at home too, so he recalled right away and then like perked up right away because he went right into hide and seek mode, so it was fun.
So I would run away from her, like we were talking about last week with because as soon as we put on the long line, he starts like,
you know,
it's a recall. So I ran the other way, and then while I'm running runway, she would go, there was like this corner, so she'd go around, and then she called him, and right away he like turned, and there was this moment of like,
she's not right there.
Like so he like, and then she did say his name like a second time.
Sure.
And because she couldn't see him coming, that was our biggest problem. So I couldn't communicate to her that he's actually like legitimately on
the way. Yeah.
And as soon as he heard it the second time, he like just booked until he found her. It was awesome.
Good. You're walkie-talkies.
Yeah, we needed something, you know. But I mean, there was people there having like a party, like pretty far away, like I don't know, pretty far away. But there were people like walking around, and he thought it was a game. So
excellent.
He
one thing you could test out is, so like, let's say Blue, for whatever reason, gets super far from you, he's not going to be able to hear you.
Right.
But with the remote, his assumption is going to be to return.
That's true.
Is that, so for example, I had a couple that I worked with, and it was a park probably twice as wide as like from here to the house, and probably just as long, but there was this huge hill, like where that other building is, huge hill. And the dogs used to love running, and they would run behind the hill and come around. So for me personally, I don't like when like my personal dogs would be more than like 30 feet off me.
Yeah.
But you know, the dogs, they go behind the hill, and I'm like, how do you guys feel about that? They're like, oh, it's fine, he does it all the time, he'll be out for 1 second. And then 1 second comes. And then seconds pass, right? And I'm like, and they go, oh, this is weird. So now I was like, just tap the remote. Okay, so they just tapped it, and then within a second, he came boating around from the other side. So it's still communication. So words are really more so for the human. I mean, yes, dogs can associate what to do in response to that word, but he's really going, okay, I'm at a distance from mom, and whenever I get remoted at a distance, it almost always means come back. Right?
Yeah, what I was trying to do at the forest preserve was like not call him as much, but I was calling him just so he would know my location.
Yeah, he should find you.
Yeah. But other than that, I was trying to just like use the button first. That's what it's meant for, right? With like hunting dogs, like being a mile away.
Yeah, that's why it's so. That's why that one I think is 3/4.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would give it test. So as we go along, then talk about this, like testing it at a higher number to kind of crack. So, and this is optional, but I always, for the most part, will present to people is, so you practice your obedience, like that was great, all that stuff was good. You're your homework. And that's kind of like in the context of everything's fine, there's no emergency. But in the case of an emergency, if for whatever reason you took off, and the most common thing is flight mode, because if you call him, he's scared for his life. That obedience doesn't always factor in, right? Because if you call him and he's running away from something, he's running away from a potential threat.
Yeah.
So if you call him, he's thinking, well, then I'm going to run to the threat. That makes sense? So it's going to go against his instinct, because his instinct is to survive. So what I'll tell people to do is put the dog in a long line, and I'll typically hold the end of it, unless they're like in a nice safe setting or whatever, and I'll tap it. And it's one day randomly out of nowhere, 127, and then see what the dog does in response. If the dog goes into flight mode, I keep it at 127, and then I remote them, and then make them return. This is no words. I make them return, and I praise them, and then I ignore them. Okay? And that's it. And I might leave it alone for months. And I might try again later on. It's kind of like a just in case, because if he is in flight mode, you're more than like for the whole, I think you'll talk about the cats or something. 27,
Yeah.
you just have to jack it up.
Jack it all the way.
It's the same kind of thing, except here. So if the dog goes into flight mode and we've not done this, I've seen where you'll start remoting and it'll actually speed the dog up.
Yeah, he'll just run in the
Yeah, he'll just keep going. So then what you're trying to do is make him more afraid of running away than he is of the thing he's running away from. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but I would keep conditioning, right? And then like in a month or so, pop him on the long leash, you know, kind of like nothing's going on, like let him be out doing his doggy thing, just randomly. Just, if you 127 tap and he runs straight to you, lot of praise, good boy. If he doesn't, he tries to run away. That's why we have that long line. And I keep 127 because he's got to learn how to respond with that much pressure. You know?
Kind of think through it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and this is the only command that I do that with. Because that's the one, anytime that anybody's ever had to use the emergency command, it's always like the recall. And then they'll tell me, like, I had to go to 127 or something like that. How it goes. Okay?
Yeah.
Anything else?
You keep asking me to remind you. So like we're kind of running out of the season, but we have like a little baby pool in the backyard with like water in it for the dogs and whatever.
Yeah.
They can't, if the dog's in water and you're letting them, they don't get like.
No, it's
electric
fully
either.
water. It's the same thing. It's a contraction. It's a muscle contraction. Some dogs get more sensitive. Some dogs get less sensitive. Okay. So you have to figure out what's his deal. How does he respond when he's wet?
Like if they're swimming or something, it's still.
Yeah, it's fully waterproof. You just have to make sure that the tab where you charge it, both those things are waterproof. It's closed. I did have one client say that water got into the collar and it started to misfire. Okay, but then once it dried off, it worked just fine. But she had forgotten to put the tab in. The other thing is, like, let's say he's in the water and it's a hot or humid day, is I would suggest rotating that collar more frequently.
Because it'll cause irritation.
Yeah, you can get there can be either the humidity or the heat because there's the box on his neck and stuff. It'll irritate faster. So then I recommend rotating it more often, like every hour, and then it should be fine unless it's on some kind of a comfort adapter. But I always still with comfort adapters recommend that people alternate the collar.
Yeah, I'm still looking into that.
Anything else? All right.
We're really happy.
Good.
Like the difference in our house from when we started with you till now is like unbelievable. Like it's hard to explain unless you live it. But it's
I know
like,
what you're talking about.
It's great.
I've seen
we
it. I see it all the
haven't-
time.
Like now we go places because we got a collar for our other dog, and like we'll be walking and some other people's dogs are like and they're dragging their dog.
Oh yeah,
like,
when we were at the forest preserve, it was this
we've got the welcome shoulder.
little rat dog. I mean, all she had to do was hold it out to here, so I could understand why she kind of let it go on for so long.
Yeah.
But I was like, dude, if my dog did that, I would be so mad.
Yeah, I was just talking to someone about it earlier whose dog is reactive, and she's only had the dog for a day, and she's already trying to get it trained.
Right. Yeah.
And then she's like, I don't know how people can just ignore this behavior. And then I was like, well, the small dogs, people can just pick
They
up.
pick 'em up.
Yeah.
Do that.
Just go like
we've
this.
We've had that where we're walking by and like our dogs are just walking by now, and it's like this lady in our neighborhood picked up her dog and it was like, oh, he's like, it's long.
It's just,
He's like a
it would
cat.
hurt my arms to be pulling my dog back that much. Like I'd have to do something about it.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Good. No, I'm glad to hear it. I mean, it's because you do the homework. I can only give information. Like, I wish every client was always a success, but realistically speaking, like, even though I give them effective methods, like a lot of times people,
It's repetition.
yeah,
We could have, like 6 weeks ago, whatever it is, 7 weeks ago, he would be in the crate, the cat would walk by. It was insanity. The cat was screaming, the dog, it was terrible. And now the cat will walk on by and kind of like even tease him a little, and he's just like watching.
yeah. It's funny. No, I hear stuff like that all the time because the cat sees the control,
Yeah.
so now it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And the cat is like
Cats are
legit
evil.
like egging him on. You know?
Yeah, no, for sure. I remember in Texas when I used to walk my dogs, there was a cat, and the first time my dog saw the cat, they lunged and I corrected them. And then I would go like kind of like the same path home. And then after the cat saw I had control of my dog, I kid you not, it would be at the end of the driveway just sitting there grooming itself.
Yeah.
Like it'd be right there. And I'm like, man, cat, you're ballsy. Once it's solid control, like
Oh yeah.
it's all instinct. You know, if an animal sees threat, they're gonna go away. If they don't see any threat, then for the most part they don't need to. But yeah, it's super fun. It's super interesting.
Oh, it's such a, you say it all the time. now.
Yeah, I
so.
didn't think I'd be able to let them out in the yard all summer because of the soccer kids, but that's basically worked
That's
itself
over.
out too.
The lawnmower stuff is over. The kids stuff is over. The cat stuff is over. We'll see what happens with
Now
the
remember,
humans.
you know, because he's a 3 to 4 year old kid up here.
Yeah.
Right, forever. He's not going to mature past that. And I told this to someone else, and they were like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a dog. You're talking about like serious. He's not going to become an 18-year-old to a 21-year-old. Like, no, he's not moving out the house and getting his own place. Like, it's a dog. He's 3 to 4 years old
Yeah.
forever. Is that you're forever that parent. And as a 3 to 4 year old kid, you have to give him direction. You have to keep an eye on him.
Right.
You can't
So
just.
does this swing around? Sorry to interrupt, but does that swing around? It's like, you know, we're moving into winter. There won't be lawnmowers. There won't be soccer players. So what, in the spring when everything comes back, will he be like back at it?
Yes and no. Okay, I don't mean yes, but people tend to get more lenient during the winter months.
Right.
So if you're keeping up with the training and you're using it and you're applying it, like just like, you know, it just would be a different routine, then the answer would be no.
Okay.
Okay? This is the squirrel. Look at this little. Speaking of, right? Look at this little squirrel just teasing me. But if, you know, the most common thing I get in the springtime is people, yeah, look how close he's getting. Look at that. Told ya. Perfect example.
Now, I'm telling you, 6 weeks ago, this dog would have been like,
Yeah,
You
he's
can't
very
see
close,
it.
you know.
It was like right behind your
tell her.
He's coming up to you.
See, there's,
yeah,
there's,
this dog would not have been.
Oh no, I'm surprised he hasn't done anything
go ahead
yet.
and tap here. Look at this guy. Hey, don't be taking my secrets. Yeah, that's right. And
That's awesome.
when I get right when I throw it,
That's
see
a
how
real
close.
thing there.
If he was lunging and barking, he would not have gotten that close.
That one has gotten some peanuts out of it.
I do get emails in the spring. Jesse, you know, got lazy, the dog pressed the answer is almost always crazy. That's it. Just tighten things up again, right? But it's because they fell out of, you know, they're not walking their dogs as long, they're not going on actual walks as much, it's too cold.
Right.
Super common. But if you're like applying stuff regularly in the home, when friends come over, like those things are still gonna apply, then I don't foresee having that problem. And you guys have been a lot, you guys have been really good about doing your homework too, so that's awesome. Okay?
We're enjoying it. Like, we're enjoying it. The payoff is.
Beautiful. And if you ever have any questions, even after training, you always have my technical support. Like I had a client, I trained her puppy like 2.5 years ago. She sent me an email, but she moved to New York now. And I could only provide so much insight, and then I referred her to a couple of dog trainers out there. And I had another client reach out from like Arkansas or something. That was like a year ago, but I trained her dog like 5 years ago.
Oh wow.
Because they got a new dog and they were fighting. And then I just texted them like, do this and this and this. And then like 2 weeks later, like, Jesse, we love each other. We're great. Good.
Yeah, I was worried about. I think he's an only child for a while, but I feel like if I ever brought in another dog, he would have issues sharing like attention and
In the
stuff.
beginning, yeah. So actually, just in the past 6 months, I've had about 5 clients who had reactive dogs that were only dogs that now have got a puppy.
Yeah.
But see, I disagree because he lives in a house with another dog.
Yeah, but he
sharing
was
you.
because he gets mad at her if she comes up to the room. Not like mad enough to be aggressive, but like he doesn't like her on my bed, and he gets a little bit of possession over me.
Yeah. And that you would have to knowing that, because if you're in the bed and he's here with you, he's essentially like snake this claim. Like I'm here
Right.
first. Kind of like kids, right? Like they're playing like video games and another kid tries to no, like I got here first.
Right.
Right? Same thing with dogs. So then if I see that potential situation, what I do is I either move the dog, right? Because now there's nothing possessive. So you're really working around it. You can't make him enjoy or accept another dog coming into the space. You can make it happen, but you can't make him enjoy it. And that's where the intention comes from. Right? So then, like, let's say if I know he's the problem child with that stuff, then, like, let's say I did want both dogs. I would either call him in, so I put him there, and then call the other dog, because he's not there by his choice. He's there because I told him to come there.
Right.
So that's different. Or I call the other dog in first, and if he came in afterwards, if this dog's completely neutral, there technically shouldn't be any tension because this dog was here first. Okay? And I would suggest try it out, and you'll see the difference, and you're like, oh wow, like, yeah, if he's here first and the dog comes in, he's got a problem, but if I reverse it, there's no problem.
We could probably do that.
That reminded me of something. Is my friend, one of my close friends, she's thinking about getting a dog, and so she's already talking about puppy play dates and stuff. But something I've noticed, like with him, is like with humans, and I think it's dogs too. If they come into the house, I think he's aggressive with it. So how would I introduce like a play date that is not always going to be there, but like could come over to run in? Because we have a whole backyard and she doesn't, so I think that's what.
You have to build a bond first.
Okay. Outside of the house?
Yeah, shoot me an email. It's a very simple exercise. I have several videos on. Essentially, you walk the dogs together, and then you walk them into the yard. There's a way that I go about it, and then you would repeat this. You keep repeating. Like, let's say, for some dogs, after the first walk, they're good, but then some dogs might take 10 walks before he finally goes, like, oh, like I know you have seen me sometimes,
Right.
and you'll see him like wag his tail and stuff as if he was greeting someone, like a family member.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're talking about.
Yeah, they
Because
actually
I was thinking too, what if it's a friend who has a dog, but he
doesn't know
like
the
a new friend, like
That
doesn't know
would
the
be a
friend,
whole
you introduce a new human and a new dog at the same time.
Sure, and walking is the best way to build bonds with dogs. So, like for humans, like we do things to build friendships and relationships. You know, like if you maybe at school you find someone who's got the same hobbies or the same interest, and it starts off as just that, and then over time, as you do things together, those activities that you do strengthen that bond, right?
Right.
Dogs do the same thing, except dogs don't read books and they don't play video games and they don't go to movies, right? But they're limited in what they do. But the three kind of trust building exercises are play, walking, and resting. Okay, so play takes more trust to like be comfortable. Resting, well, if they just met each other, they're not going to want to rest. So walking. Okay, so walking helps build that introduction without any. People tend to go, hi, how are you with their dogs, and it's very unnatural. That's human. Hi, you know? Dogs don't know that. So if you try to do face-to-face right after that, you're probably not going to go up. So that's why we do walking stuff.
So you wouldn't even like introduce them and just start walking.
Yep.
Okay.
So shoot me an email, and I'll send you the videos. And I also have a Facebook group that I started for my clients with dogs that are reactive or have aggression issues that we kind of work through. And they just kind of coordinate amongst themselves.
To try to get together.
Yeah, but everybody in the group is someone that I either know personally, who's related to us some way, like they use our daycare or they've done training with us. Most of them have done training with us. So like if there's like things go south, like they correct it, they just keep going. They're not like, oh my god, okay, thanks, see you later.
Right.
You know. So yeah. So if you want the information for that as well, you can just shoot me for that in the email, and I'll give you the information.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So let's go ahead and leash this guy up. And I'm going to just have you show me real quick what you worked on, and then we'll work on teaching a couple. Does he know down by chance?
No.
At all, period.
No. Like, I mean, yes,
He
like,
tried,
he'll know the
but-
command, but not from a distance, not like
He doesn't
anything.
know, but he knows how to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he knows how to do it, but food was never a big enough motivator for him to do it.
Okay.
That was one of like the commands where he's like, yeah, why?
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, but like if I say like down, he'll usually lay down. It's iffy on his turn.
Okay, because I'm going to see if we get through chat today.
Okay.
So I just want to see your recall real quick, and then we'll move on to the downs.
Look up. Way to clothesline it.
We'll do a couple more.
Look up.
Nice. Good, one more?
Can we do one of these?
On the stay? Sure.
Great.
Good, one more. And what's your number?
25. Look up.
Very good. And is he as responsive with you?
I think so.
Let's give a couple of tries. So we'll swap handlers. They can or Keep tapping. There you go. Good. Try just one more.
I think she likes her better.
Good. Good. All right. So what can be improved is I like that he's turning on the recall. Is it can be faster.
Yeah.
Okay. So that needs to be faster, and the return can be faster as well.
Okay.
But he's doing everything well.
So how do you speed him along?
More power.
More power
Yep.
here.
Yep.
So when you say come, this is at a higher level.
Correct. And I would do like jumps of 5.
Okay.
You know, so like what I'm looking for is so what we have right now. He goes like this, right?
Yeah.
And I want like an immediate 180, or like you'll go like, yeah, that's good. Okay.
Okay.
Because you want to think like if he's chasing a squirrel or something, like really, really into it, is you need to have that really sharp turn away.
Okay.
Otherwise, that little delay, and it's funny because I saw this the other day with a client, his dog did the turn, but was like kind of slow on the return, and then just kind of, but I'm gonna go back and do this over here. So having the speed on that turn and the return, so you know what it looks like now. I go to 30, do another one, still slow, 35, another one, 40, another one, until maybe you hit, I don't know, 65, and then you go, oh wow, that's a pretty big difference. Like you'll know it. Yeah, you'll see it. You're like, wow, that's better. And then you start training to that big deal. Okay? Because that's what's gonna, whatever you end up training and applying consistently, is what you're gonna get realistically speaking. And when you factor in all the other stuff, the fact that it's not gonna be a leash and everything, then there's always gonna be some level of regression. But if you've trained to that level, like it's not gonna be a big deal. Okay? The next step to this would be pretty much like the same, except not having the leash in your hand.
Which we did a little bit in the forest picture.
Yeah.
He trailed.
Yeah. That would so the progression is short leash to long leash,
Yeah.
right? To long leash dragging,
Yep.
to no leash enclosed area, to no leash unenclosed area. Okay. And I'll tell everybody like do those steps because things are gonna happen, and that's what you're trying to like take advantage of.
Right.
So like I was at the park by my facility with a client, and someone randomly set off a firework. And it spooked the dog. And I hated it, and I'm like, but I told the client, it sucks that someone lit a firework, now your dog, it was already a nervous dog. I was like, but now you're gonna learn how to train your dog when your dog is under stress. You know, how to work with your dog. So, but those are stuff that people don't factor in, right? So, the next step would be like, same thing, you're running with blue, leash dragging, and then, a couple ways you can work around it is if you let the leash drag, like I would be closer in so that I have something to work with in case I need to step on it.
Yeah.
I try to refrain from picking up the leash because for a lot of dogs, when they see the leash going to you, it acts as a visual trail. So the recalls would be great.
Yeah.
And then the moment the owner drops the leash on the ground, the dog goes, what do I do?
Oh, you should tell him about the stay at night.
We told him impossible. Yeah, that he was in a stay, and we thought we were like in a courtyard alone. But a different dog had walked past with its owner that I hadn't seen, and so I quickly went to go back where I could be like close enough to the leash. She was, and he stayed perfectly. We didn't have to worry about it.
I just went like that.
Yep.
He didn't move the muscle.
Yeah, so at that was good. And at this stage, like if you're doing like the long leash stuff, dragging, you want to refrain from the hands, one, because of burn, but then also to break his need on having that visual. You know, so like if I step on the leash and I'm remoting him and he's going the wrong way, I'll just keep that pressure on, and eventually you'll see him go like, this is wrong, go this way, and then I go like this, and do that backwards movement to like reaffirm from where yeah, exactly, that's what I was looking for. Okay. Good. So all this looks good. So that's the only thing I would do is start playing with the number. Like, and I would go quick. because we know he's got a really good concept of it. So I jump to 30, do a recall, tap, tap, still slow, 35. And the moment you hit that right number, you're gonna see like, wow, that's like a really big difference. And then you practice to that degree.
And does it usually kind of stay around that same number then, like for the future? Like I would just kind of put it to there, or
it may, or it may dip, you know, because once he gets a taste of more power, again, it's what you're practicing regularly, right? So if you practice your recalls like this, that's what you're going to get in real life, plus a little less, right? So then if I train to an even better degree, where it's faster for everything, you might find 65 was the number that you needed to make that, but then you only need 45 to reinforce it once he's actually learned it, but it's technically still high. Okay? And it can go a number of different ways. Again, Blue will tell you what's too much and what's too little, because you also have to factor in just the environment itself, what's going on with that moment. So it's just learning how to think. Okay? Other questions? All right, let's work on that down. So what we're going to do here is, what is our number currently?
It is
24. Let me have you lightly pull up on your leash and give a tap here to put in a sitting position. All right, and go to come around your chest. And what you're going to do is let your, hold your leash, just relax. I'm going to give a little bit of slack here. And with your left foot, you know how you have that loop there?
Yep.
You're going to step on the middle of that loop so that he feels pressure on the back of his neck. So you may have to shorten here. Just a little bit, right there, okay? And all right, he did it with just the leash, but we need to do it with remote. So we're gonna try that again. Okay, so lightly pull up, yeah. So what we're gonna do here, so this is good, because this means he should get it no problem, is when you feel the pressure on his neck going down, start the tap. Tap, wait a moment, tap, wait a moment, tap, wait, tap, wait, tap. Now he shuffles around. Okay. Tap, tap, tap. Come on, bud. Tap. Yeah, wait. Tap. Tap. Tap.
Look
I
at
feel like
me,
he
dude, I
shifted
can't help
it.
ya.
Go ahead and go to 28. Tap. 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 Yeah, keep your foot where it is. Tap. Wait a moment. Tap. And you could just do a step down, so you're not having to like actively push. You just, when you step on the leash, just enough that he feels a little bit. Yeah, right there. Tap. Wait a moment. Slower taps. Hold on. Wait. Now pick up a little bit more slack. Right there. Tap. Wait. Almost. What's your number now?
29.
Let's go back down to 22. Tap. Right there's good. Wait a moment. Tap. Wait. Brace.
Good job.
Good. So when you put the pressure in the beginning, he went straight into it, but there was no remote.
Yeah.
And then you put remote, and all of a sudden he starts going like this. Right? Normal. Okay.
Because his association is to like sit or move,
There's the move, right?
Right.
And then so that's why 24 was very bad. Is we start at that number. Is we always go lower when we teach something new. But for the down command, because we're putting them into a stationary position, plus it's also a more vulnerable position. So I've had dogs get like completely friendly dogs become aggressive teaching the down command because of someone they don't know, and I'm using negative force to put them in this position. So lots of things are defensive. So here, because he already had some idea of the down, we were able to kind of skip to this. Otherwise, if he didn't know it at all, I would have told you use food this week to teach him how to down. So the next class would be a lot easier. Okay. So here, first one he went straight into it, but as soon as you start putting power, all of a sudden he's doing this. Right? He can't help that. He's not doing anything wrong. It's counterintuitive for him to go into this position when he's feeling this.
Right.
Okay? So that's why he's stepping on it, and just enough that you create a crook. Okay? We don't need, in most cases, like this, because all this like physical discomfort plus that is going to create more bumping around. Okay? And then you heard me say like you tap, then I would say wait a moment. It's because when he's moving, he's thinking about what he needs to do to resolve the pressure. So then when you tapped and you started doing this, I go, he's thinking.
Yeah.
You wait. And then he would sit down. Incorrect. Tap again. Round. He sit down. Incorrect. Tap again. So he's got to figure out, like, okay, what the hell do I do? He's got 3 choices. Stand, sit, or lay down. And so it's easy for us to get to that solution, especially if it's already familiar to him, because he's done it before. Okay? Go ahead and you can do a break.
Break.
And we're going to do this 4 more times, okay? You're going to pop him with your leash up with a light pressure into a sitting position. Yeah. There we go. Relax. Give him slack and light pressure. Yeah. Wait a moment. Yeah. Yeah. Wait a moment. Yeah. And brace. Yeah, boy.
Break.
Good. 3 more. Yep. Wait a moment. Yep. Yep. Wait a moment. Brace.
Good boy.
Boy. 2.
Break.
And 1 more.
Break.
Tap. Wait a moment. Tap. Tap. Wait a moment. Brace. Very good. I'm going to pause right there. Okay. So the first couple were the hardest, and like 3 and 4 were pretty good, and the last one he kind of struggled a bit. Almost done. But now you can see how he's getting to the answer much faster. That first one took at least 45 seconds to
Right.
and the rest became like 5 to 10 seconds. Okay. So when you give that tap, we're going to add in the word as well after you get more comfortable with it, is if you see him start to move too much and he looks kind of panicked, you want to go down lower. Okay? Because it's too much power for what you're doing, so then I put it in half and then work my way back up again. It should be enough to motivate him to think about, like, what do I need to do to stop this, but not enough to like, okay? And when we apply the physical pressure, we also want to be mindful that we don't apply too much physical pressure, because we have 2 points of pressure. We have the pressure on the back of the neck, and then we have the remote. Okay? And in some cases, if the dog is really stubborn, I have to put pressure with my hand as well, push him down. But the moment you feel him go into it, everything goes away. Okay? Now let's say he's in the sit, and he starts to go into what looks like a down, but stops halfway. That's where you just pull up the leash to create pressure there, and then tap to get him into the rest of the position. Okay? And sometimes it'll happen where they'll stop halfway, like, is this good enough? Well, nope, you can do it toggle. Okay? Now there's 2 points to this exercise. One, we did placement, right?
Yeah.
So with place, there was the send, right? And then there was the okay, don't move. So it's same thing for the down. First we have the go into the position, and we want to get that super easy, so it's like down, okay. And then there's the now don't move part. Okay. In the beginning, he's actually doing really well. Most dogs pop up. So if he popped up, I actually wouldn't care right now, because we're focused on just teaching him how to lay down as easily as possible. So if you try to reinforce to stay down, it's going to be a process, because he doesn't know what's going on quite yet.
Yeah.
So once we get the familiarity, and he's like, oh, okay, I know what to do. When I feel this light pressure here, I feel a tap, I simply do this. Then I can be more strict with, okay, now you go do that. Right? Questions? Are you seeing how all this is like the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we're getting it, I think. Like,
Yeah, so like going to the bed, pressure, tap, tap, go there.
you were going to ask him some of those place a lot more than I have been, and it's been great. Oh, I think it was like I think a couple times she used his collar instead of the leash.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Just so if I use this flat collar, you know, I'll use it just through a finger and light pressure to direct him.
Right.
But like making him figure out as much as possible. Like if you pick them up and like kind of like grabbing him by the ear, right?
Yeah.
Go into a room. Not that much physical, very light. You know, I want him as much as possible to correct the issue, the position.
And then in terms of the place one, I think my actual question was, can I, and I think I can, just point to where I want and not have to touch him at all? Yeah. That would be what I would want to do.
Yeah, once he's got a good association of, you know, place or point. So when you do place, it's like, let's say you want to have a visual only view, then you would just attach that to the command of place, and then it would be both. You know, like most people go sit, or go down.
Yeah.
My biggest pet peeve is like when you go down. So I'm just like, yeah,
And then
the dog says it. Yes.
No.
So place, for me, like I don't care for like place, you know.
Yeah.
But like I wouldn't use the sign and like do all the work.
Yeah.
Is my thing.
Okay.
Right? It's kind of like place and then just go.
Okay.
But yeah, that's perfectly fine. I have no problem with visual cues, but if you don't want to piss me off, just don't make it that extreme, okay? Because I will get annoyed. Questions?
No.
Alrighty, so what we're gonna do here is with the down, we're gonna release it, and we're gonna try the same thing, but this time when you apply your pressure, I'll have you apply a little bit less leash pressure. Just enough, you'll feel it on your foot when it's just touching the back of his neck, and we're gonna see if he jumps into it straight from there. Okay?
Break. Break.
This is what I wanted.
There you go. That was good. Now wait a moment. Yep. Wait a moment. Wait. Yep. And brace. Very good. We're gonna try that 4 more times. That's really good.
Break. Just wind up sitting on this thing.
There it is. Brace.
Good boy. Good cat. I don't want to roll over. Break.
Good. 3 more. Yep. Brace.
Good boy. Yeah.
2 more.
Break. Break.
Good.
He's lifting his leg now you
I
can
know.
scratch me. I did it. Give me a
Break.
scratch.
And on this next one, after you down him, you'll keep him in that position, okay? Good. So you see how it's getting easier?
Yeah.
That 4th one was on that single tap. So through this repetition, which is making it easier and easier, and we're taking advantage of the fact that he's probably going to assume to make it even easier. Okay, so we're going to use that to our advantage. So now what we're going to do is go to cueing that word down. So right after you give that cue, you're going to be ready with that pressure and the tap to follow through right away. Okay?
But the down comes first.
Correct. So the down is kind of like the warning cue. Go into position. If you go fast enough, you can avoid the tap. So if you set down and went into this, it's like that. Okay. So The come command, because that's going to be super important off each potential runaway, and like the factor of confusing the dog running away and all. That's why I say always tap and follow in the training, in the proving phase. Once it's solid, and it's like, yeah, we've worked through a lot of stuff, we're good.
Is it the same thing with place? Like, do I need to tap him every time for that too?
If he's already sending, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So,
what I kind of been thinking.
yeah, the one command that I always tap in the beginning is the come command. The others, if you give him the cue and he just goes into it, I let him beat the punch and go, yes, let's go.
Okay.
So we're doing the same thing with the down. Now, let's say you here got up, you would simply put that pressure and tap, no repeat. Okay? And then you should self-correct. This is very much like place command, except it's a bit more strict. Down, down. I don't care how down. Like when you roll on his back, actually don't care.
Okay.
If he's on his side, I don't care.
As long as it's on the floor where he is.
Correct. As long as he sit up or stand up, it's fine. So like my pit lacks like I can down her and then like she'll like just be on her side or like on her back. If that's comfortable for her and she'll hold it for 2 hours, I don't care how the dog looks. I don't care about the function of it, not the look of it. Okay? But there's some trainers that will tell you to train the dog to lay down on the Sphinx.
Yeah.
And it looks very pretty, but I'm like, no.
What's the
Like
point?
just
What
yeah.
about
who
though if
cares?
they, like, because I've seen him do this, like where he's like,
Oh,
yeah,
where he's
and then
down and then he
creeps
rolls.
a little and
Yes.
rolls and creeps and
That you would correct. Because so technically it's like a loophole,
Yeah.
right? Where he's
like I'm still down.
yes.
I'm
but
just
you would
kind of
correct.
like-
Then you end up from there, like over here.
there.
And dogs are so smart. So we would correct that. If you tap him on his collar, you'd probably see him stand up. I would grab the leash, keep slowly tapping the gently area, no repeat. Once he really knows it, you'll see him go straight into it. Okay? If he's still at the beginning, I would tap, and as I'm tapping, leash pressure. But I never repeat that verbally.
But you bring him back to where he was originally.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be exact positioning, just general area.
Alright.
Okay? So now we're gonna go ahead and edit that verbal cue. You're gonna say break. You're gonna go ahead and get your leash ready. You're gonna do that word down, and then follow it with some leash pressure and then down.
Right.
Good.
Down.
Wait a moment. There. Good brace. I'm not going to care that he moves. Okay? Because that was actually pretty good. Like he moved, but pretty much went straight into it. I ignore that.
Alright.
Once he gets to like the turn down in this motion, it should be sequential. He would just go into it. Okay? Do 4 more.
Break.
Right, tap, 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 tap. Face.
Good.
Good. 3 more.
Break. Down.
Yep. There. There. Yeah. Go ahead and pull away. Between. Yeah. Grace.
Good.
2 more.
Break. Down.
Alright, wait a moment. There it is. Grace. And last one.
Break. How am I supposed to fucking do this? Come on, break.
Come on,
It's
buddy.
like I am breaking.
I know. Technically, right?
Come on.
Technically, I'm doing whatever.
He's like, technically, I can stay here. Like, come on.
Come on.
Good.
Down.
right? Was there even a tap there? Because he started to go into it. You could see the motion, right? So like I wouldn't tap on that one either. So we'll keep him in that position for now. So this exercise of the repeated downs, 2 to 3 minutes, 2 times a day. Okay, super short. Just so that if you want to get towards a down, okay? I don't need to be super speedy fast, but you know, down and like that was a little bit faster than great. But this one is not like super urgent that you need super speed. Right? Then there's the, of course, go down and go unexpected. So once like the place command, I suggest at the beginning of practice with in your movement space. So like let's say you're gonna, you know, eat dinner at the table or maybe you're working on a computer at a desk or something, you can down them and you keep your foot on the leash. Okay? And then you do your thing. And then if you start to feel tension pulling up, and see I'm trying to get up, you're gonna repeat, you take the tap, and you should go back to the position. Okay? You would also, if you need to get up, I suggest releasing first and then standing up and doing what you're gonna do, so that you don't create the pattern of I stand up, I release you. So then you're gonna assume that every time you stand up, you're gonna be free. Okay? So it's the same deal as with the place command. Do keep in mind, if you place blue and then sit down, it's not a place. It's a down. Okay? That's a down on place. So the reason why I recommend people don't do it, because places just go there and chill, but some people like to, is at least remember if you do that he's in a down. Because people will forget. Because they'll see the dog on place and the dog will be moving, and they should correct it because they were in a down.
But you mean if you say down in his plate, like, but the command is down? Okay.
Because so you send
Send
him.
him to the place and then you say down.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Like you have people over, you say place, but he's like walking around on his place.
Yes.
It's making people nervous.
Making it,
He's
yeah.
put him in a down.
You can do that. Correct. But then he's in a down.
Right.
It
So
just
he's
happens
supposed
to be
down
On the area, yeah.
So and then remembering, because people will forget, because they'll think it's place is leading it. Like you said, you're to stand up. So then they'll forget, but you actually have to correct that to a down. Your new command overrides your old command, even if it's the same command. So if you say place, and then 10 minutes later he gets up and tries to walk off, and you say place again, you've not taught him to not walk off of it by default. You've taught him simply to reset the command.
Right.
Okay, then you find yourself saying place 2 times. So that's why I don't repeat, I always just correct. Length of time, you can do as long as you want. That is the place command. So then you have your feet.
What if we got him? I think we got like an hour and a half out of it.
In place.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Trying to think here.
Yeah, we actually kind of forgot.
I
And then
almost
she
forgot
got
to
up.
break
She's
it.
like, oh wait, break.
It's like Malcolm in the Middle. Did you ever watch that?
Yeah.
Where was it Dewey?
Dewey.
Where they left him in timeout overnight, and they wake up in the morning, and he's in the
He's
corner.
still there.
snoozing. Yeah. That's what I think about. But yeah, so this is racial control. This is more strict. This is where like maybe you go somewhere and you need that stationary control, but you don't have something to use, like you have this command. Okay. This is more strict in place. So if he can do this for 2 hours, like the rationing aspect of these commands does overlap. Okay, so like don't think you have to do 2 hours of place and 2 hours of down. You can pick and choose. If anything, I opt for this one because this one is harder. You know, for him to sit still in some kind of down position. That place is simple at that point. Okay, so you have either or to choose from. I would keep it close. I wouldn't worry about distance quite yet. That's going to be stages. But this is something you start implementing into your repertoire of things that he does. Okay, questions?
If he like readjusts in the sense of if he comes, like if he's in a down and he stands up to turn around and goes right back down, how would I like? Because if it happens too quick, how would I correct that?
That's a good question. I go by the dog. So like my pit Lex will do that, but she'll hold it down forever.
Yeah.
So like she'll get up and like stand and stretch and like spin and go down again, and I know she's not gonna go. So I let it go, you know, because I know she's very consistent about that. Now let's say he does that. I observe. What do you do next? He stretches, he he adjusts, goes back down, he's there for another hour, I let it go.
Okay.
But if you start to see, like, every time he does that, he just
Moves a little bit or something.
you
Yeah.
cannot allow that.
Okay.
So then you would start correcting.
Okay.
If you ever correct him and like he breaks out of position, you just keep tapping back to general area, use pressure if needed. He lays back down. Reset. Other questions?
Any questions?
So I think this, the only other command we really need is to sit, almost sit, which is super easy. And then after that, what we're going to be doing is essentially taking all the stuff you've been learning, applying it to a long leash, and just practicing things to office reliability.
All right.
You'll be getting like exercises and things like that. For this week, the down, again, 2 minutes, a couple times a day. Once you see he gets it, like you can just down him and it's pretty consistent. I don't even worry about practicing anymore. I just go to application. Okay. And then for the recall, doing that, do a recall. We know 25 is too low. 30, 35, 35, 40, whatever. And then once you hit that magic number, you're like, oh wow, that's speedier. And don't be discouraged if you go higher and you start to notice like, holy crap, like it's actually deflecting, right? Because that means that it wasn't fully proofed yet.
Right.
If the collar deflects him, then that's telling me he's not 100% with recall. Okay. So then I work up through that, and then you'll start to see like a faster turnaround. So like I had a puppy that I was working with, and we're doing recall, and the puppy was panicked and was like rolling on the ground and all that stuff, right? And it was only 24. And then we kept going up higher, and I think it was like 36 or 38, and finally the puppy was just like a bullet to the owners. And the owners were like, wow, like we thought that higher would actually make the dog continue not, yeah, exactly, worse. No, it's like it's because it was too low that the puppy didn't like it and was like, no, I don't want to deal with this, and was kind of freaking out a bit because she was a nervous dog. But once you keep giving enough power, it makes the dog think straight.
Right.
And then all of a sudden she's doing everything spot on.
I do have a question, which is, looks like a plum, man. He's a counter cruiser.
Just the day at the...
So, like, if we're in the kitchen, he's got 4 on the floor, but as soon as we leave, he's like, we know he's up. So,
And I don't hear it until I hear his feet come back down. So
and he's learned to be, like, it used to be he'd bring things down. Now he knows, like, kind of like lick his way around, and he's actually ingested plastic. So is there a command for like
What you
staying
would
off
do
the counter?
I don't think it's a command, it's just an expectation.
Yeah. You would either just, if he has the collar on, like me personally, if he's going to counter surf and stuff, I wouldn't let him in the area if there's food, period.
Yeah.
Or 2, you can like leave stuff out intentionally, put like hot sauce on it.
We've done that.
She likes Mexican.
Yeah.
My dog's eating hot Cheetos, so.
We're a spicy family, so and our problem is like we've been really good about keeping stuff off the counter, but
we live in a
other
big
people
house.
that live in the house.
Yeah, so then you could also set him up to fail and
That's
then just
what
be
we've
ready
been doing,
and then max out the collar, and the moment he even looks at the counter, right there. And then he's gonna shoot out running. So then he's gonna think, I can't even look at the counter or I'm gonna get very harsh correction. And I actually had another, I'm pretty sure she was an Australian shepherd. And she would go in the garbage. And they would have to look 27 continuous her. But she kept going in the garbage. And
He's as bad as like our first lab. Our first lab would take steak off the counter.
Sure.
But for him, when he was able to get the plastic up, he threw it up eventually. But like when they're in the garbage like that, you're looking, you can have surgery, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not just annoying. It's like
no, it could be life
it
threatening.
could be like.
So they did 127 continues and the dog kept going. So then they were like, ow, like such a harsh correction like with the dog. So then what we had to do was, if the dog even looked at the garbage can, like I don't care where the dog was, I would say 127 continuous. And then finally the dog wanted nothing to do with it because it couldn't even get near it.
Yeah.
But it was gambling. I'll put my head in here and take something and take that hit. So I would just do 127 Nick the moment he looks. Okay, it's gonna be super harsh, but it'll fix the problem like real quick. So you don't have to worry about like fiddling with it. Because yes, it can be like that. Okay? All right, ladies, we're gonna head on to another part.
All right.
Pleasure seeing you
Thank
again.
you.
If you have any questions.